All right, little New York State politics, where Senate Republicans are unveiling a proposal that would cap how much the state can collect in property taxes each year. That proposal would limit increases in New York City's property tax levy to a maximum of 2%. GOP says the move would save property owners $500 million. There's a 2% property tax cap in the state already. Senate Republicans want to make it permanent, and as opposed to up for approval every now and then the way it is now. Bill, I take it you're a supporter of the property tax cap. Should it be permanent?
Only if it comes with mandate relief. And the two are supposed to happen together. The governor promised that he'd bring mandate relief and the tax cap, and together they would work. But what's happening now with the tax cap is you're breaking the backs of municipalities, school districts, fire districts, because their expenses are going up, but their cap is 2%. So you're chewing up their reserves, you're putting them in debt, you're sinking cities like Syracuse. You've got to get mandate relief from Albany. For example, Westchester County, I'm just familiar with the numbers, 85% of every dollar that Westchester brings in out of the tax levy is mandated, is spent by Albany.
Richard, why is Bill wrong?
Because he's counting things like salaries paid to workers who work on things like health care. There is a sharing of response. That's not that's no more a mandate. A mandate is the way we used to use it, is a stupid, excessive regulation and reduction of the power of the local government. There's room to make change. But when you start throwing around this kind of stuff, like the Republicans in the Senate, you are making political points about people justly worried about their property taxes. They're too high. But there are better, easier, smarter ways to do this than breaking the backs of municipalities. Mandate relief, if you get what he's talking about, means no Medicaid.
It means maybe giving counties the authority to decide what kind of Medicaid.
Well, you're going to have 67 Medicaid.
No, I just want to ask a question because I'm a little confused from the perspectives here. How do you define mandate?
Mandate, as it used to be defined, was a rule or regulation by the state that put an undue burden on a locality. It's a mandate to have a school system. You want relief from that mandate? So communities can say we're not having schools?
And just for the record, how do you define mandate?
It's an expense. It's a demand to pay a bill from Albany where the county or the town or the municipality has no right to argue it.
Because that's the way
like a school district.
Because not a school, but
they tell you how to spend it.
The reason why I was asking
they tell you how to spend it.
is because that's how I traditionally define a mandate. And wouldn't you agree, Mr. Brodsky?
Go ahead. Come on. Want to step outside?
Wow. Wouldn't you agree? Those eyes. I felt like you were Giuliani for a second.
Thank you.
You got flashbacks for the old days.
Flashbacks, right? Isn't there too much demand on local governments as it relates to mandates?
There are excesses that are worth correcting.
Like what? Like what?
Some of the ways in which we educate disabled children outside the school district. And it's expensive. And it can be looked at. But when he says mandate, he means having a school district. Do you really want to have 62, that's the number of counties in the state, different Medicaid systems? Do you really want to have communities that say we're not going to have a public school system?
Yes, I mean, New York spends more than Texas, Florida, and Pennsylvania combined in Medicaid. And New York has the most generous system in the world. If New York City wants to have a great, generous Medicaid system, great, but Sullivan County may want to give some less benefits. They may want to lower their costs.
That's not.
They should have the right to do it.
He's defined the problem, and as usual with the Republicans, he's messed up the remedy. There are plenty of places to go for efficiencies. It's not a bad thing, but the notion that we're going to tell a town like some of the towns in East Ramapo, you don't really have to have a school system. You don't really have to have a Medicaid system. And that's not mandate relief, that's the abolition of state government.
We really solved this problem. We got to the bottom of this. So
you like that one?
Well,
That's a good line.
Well played, gentlemen. All right, let's move on. The New York Times editorial board is blasting Bill. Sorry, back over here. The New York Times editorial board is blasting Bill de Blasio for accepting big bucks from political donors. The Times reports that the mayor's administration has quietly asked donors to give funds to a tax-exempt lobbying 501c4 group. That group doesn't have to worry about federal donation limits or strict reporting requirements because it's designed to promote social welfare by using social media and big ad campaigns to promote what the mayor wants. The board wrote, "It's true that Mr. de Blasio is fighting for an ambitious agenda and he's often imposed and by entrenched and deep-pocketed adversaries, but he shouldn't be battling them with a 501c4, the very symbol and substance of so much that has gone wrong in American democracy. They continue. In 2013, when he was public advocate, de Blasio published a report warning of the threat of 501c4s to dramatically undermine the democratic process. Basically, he's trying to get a big fund together to be able to do battle with the charter school advocates last year who took him to the cleaners.
Can I ask you a question? I know you're asking a question.
501c4.
But what is he doing, the mayor, that's wrong? What is he doing that any other mayor has not done?
He's not doing anything wrong.
This is ridiculous. But because the New York Times says it's important, that means we're supposed to believe it's important because the Times?
Systems. We're like Andrew Cuomo.
Okay, the system.
Wait a minute. It's a bad system where big money can come in at the request of an elected official who influences their interests and collect money to back his political and social agenda. It was wrong when Andrew Cuomo did it, and it's wrong when Bill de Blasio did it.
Are you saying it's basically a shorthand way of either bribing or paying off? Like, I can't donate $1 million to Bill de Blasio because of limits, but I can give $1 million to this group?
It's the mechanism by which big money dominates not just politics but policy. And it's wrong.
So he's not supposed to do it to fight his adversaries that have big bucks to lobby and so on. He's not. He's supposed to go, no, I'm not going to do that.
You're turning not just the political process, but the governance process over to the corporations with the most money. Is that what you want?
The people that should have the most say is the New York Times. That's what they want.
No.
The New York Times, the family-owned paper, or other newspapers, they want to be the one telling people what to think. They don't want the David Kochs out there. They don't want anybody else. The Times, the Washington Post, the family-owned papers.
That's well
They've
played.
got the editorial page, and they've been influencing policy for 100 years in this country. They don't want other people getting a chance to say anything.
It's a nice counterpoint.
Unfortunately, he's righter about the New York Times than I would hope he'd be, but he's also right about the Post and Rupert Murdoch. and if you have a problem with the press, go check the First Amendment.
No,
okay?
I'm just saying. I'm a let everyone free speech. Money equals speech. Let it out there.
Money
let it
equals
flow.
speech.
Let it flow. And,
So the
and,
rich
and,
people
and disclose it.
The rich people have 50 times more speech than Dominic or me or you.
But can't
plenty of rich people on the left.
Can't that corrupt the lawmaker? Can't that?
Absolutely. You got to have disclosure. You got to have disclosure. I don't like the non-disclosure rules that you can get away with now on the C4s. But let the money in there because it's coming in anyway. It's going to come in some way.
Corporations have no
downhill.
speaking ability. They have spending ability. Speech is not dollars. And when you equate them, you automatically make the richest people the people with the most speech. That's un-American.
Right. They could buy newspapers. They could buy newspapers.
And the Koch brothers are trying to do that.
Well, the Salzburgers have done it forever. They own a newspaper. I don't begrudge them. I think they run a wonderful newspaper. I disagree a lot with
There's
it.
a
but it's an excellent
historical
newspaper.
exception for the press.
If you're rich, you could be in the press. If you have the money, you could buy a newspaper and then influence the world, but other people can't do
With
it.
social media, you don't need a whole bunch of money.
All right,
We're
Dominic,
finished?
you and I need to pipe down because we've been entirely too. We're going to take a break. Up next, Ferguson police are searching for a shooter accused of gunning down 2 police officers right outside of police headquarters. So, how do we ease the tension and find common ground when it comes to police-community relations? And I want to ask the panel, what would you do if you ran Ferguson? How would you cool temperatures down? We'll get into that next.